Greetings, fellow travelers. Welcome to the 88th level of the RPG Cave. I'm one of your hosts, the level 99 human druid, Ryan Turford, and I'm joined for the very first time on this show. And I actually never believed I would be able to get this particular guest on this particular show. But I'm joined by the level 99 human necromancer, Mr. Badbit. How's it going?
That's right.
Joe.
And you may know me as my level 9 human barbarian, Drothar.
Oh.
Drothar the Mighty. Drothar the Rageful. Drothar.
Why is Drothar so full of rage, though, Joe? Like, what's going on in Drothar's life?
Here's the thing about Drothar, a lot of people don't know. He's misunderstood. He's angry, but for a reason. He wasn't loved as a child, nor even as a young adult. So he only knows rage, because that's all they were taught. So when when he was like at home and he did something good, his parents would yell at him. He'd be like, "Do better, Drothar, do better. You know, more blood for the blood god." Because that's how they would, like, they didn't have school back then. So it was just like blood trials and like human sacrifices. And like Drothar was really good at those things. But again, he could never live up to like the more successful second born of the family, Drothina.
Oh my God. I love that Drothar has this whole backstory that I believe you just made up on the spot. Or maybe you've been thinking about this one
just
for a
did.
while. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I love this. This is why you're perfect for this show, Joe. First of all, Thank you so much for hopping on here. Real quick, because I know this show appeals to a pretty different audience than your normal show. Real quick, if people don't know who you are, who are you and where can they find your stuff? I like to do plugs at the beginning for guests on this show.
More work. My name is Mr. Badbit. I host the Trophy Room, a PlayStation podcast made by the players for the players, where each and every week me and my best friend Kyle talk about the latest, the greatest in all things PlayStation. And I'm very excited this week because after I record with you, I record with Kyle. He's been on a 2-week hiatus. He's thought he was been better than me because he went to PAX East and then he got a stomach virus. But you know what? He's back with me now and I can't wait because we're going to talk about like Final Fantasy 16 and all that stuff. All the things he's seen at PAX. It's going to be a great show.
That's exciting. And the best part about it is, of course, it sounds like some RPG talk. Whether so folks who for some reason don't listen to the Trophy Room but listen to this show, because believe it or not, Joe, there's a lot of people in this audience that listen to this show and none of the other Carpool Gaming stuff or other community stuff. So we might be able to have some people go over and check out your show, Trophy Room, which is awesome. So definitely check it out.
Drothar is intrigued by these events.
It's true. It's true.
By this news.
Well, anyways, let's clear the dungeon because we got to get right into tonight's topic. So, folks, I don't know if you want to support the show. There's a number of awesome ways to do that. If you're watching the video on demand right now on youtube.com/carpoolgaming, don't forget to like the video, subscribe if you haven't subscribed already, and then ding, 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 ring that notification bell to hear when we go live or when we put up new videos like this one. Also, if you're listening on audio feeds, don't forget to subscribe to us there or rate us if you're listening on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, because that helps the show get discovered. And last but not least, if you want this or any of our other shows a little bit early, especially on the audio side, you can head on over to Patreon. Patreon.com/carpoolgaming. Throw a little tip in the old tip jar and out comes content. Well, without further ado, it is time to read from the sacred text. Again, I'm doing stuff with my hands, Joe. Don't feel like you need to do anything with your hands because, you know, this is one of those things where we're very outdoorsy on the show. Because the main reason I have Mr. Badbit on tonight's show is because we are talking about the Diablo 4 open beta that happened over the last 2 weekends. And one of the reasons I wanted to bring Joe on was because of all the people that were on Twitter talking about it. Like you and I were like two of the most vocal people out there in our community talking about this. We were both very excited about, this beta and we played a ton of it.
Humble brag. Mr. Diablo retweeted my tweet.
Whoa, Mr. Diablo
himself liked and retweeted my little viral tweet.
Well, that was very nice of Mr. Diablo to do that.
Exactly. So who has credentials more?
Yeah.
Than anyone else here? Me. It's Mr. Diablo.
I don't like the fact that you're trying to show me up on my own show, Joe. I don't like this.
I can't help but brag. It's a New Jersey in me, man.
You got to do it at least a little bit anyways.
Exactly.
But so yeah, we're going to get all into, our impressions of the beta, how much fun we actually had with it, as well as, we're going to answer some of y'all's questions a little bit later in the show. But first of all, Joe, I got to ask you this question because I asked this whenever we have like a discussion about this of a sequel of some kind. What's your history with Diablo? Like, where did the journey start with you for Diablo? Was it this beta? Was it Diablo 3, Diablo 2? Where'd you start, man?
It started as a ye little tot at the age of 8, right? Where I saw Diablo in GameStop, and Diablo 2.
Okay.
And I wanted it so bad. It looked so cool. Just the cover alone, right? Remember when games, not even just forget the cellophane, they came in the cardboard boxes. Remember when you got your WoW expansions in the cardboard boxes?
Yep.
Were those the days?
And not just the cardboard boxes, the big boxes, because that was when PC games still came in big boxes.
And sometimes it came in a little booklet form where you had a little like Velcro and you just go.
Yep.
You see like a little map of something. Anyway, I saw the Diablo box. And I was like, I want this so bad. And my mother, being the God-fearing Catholic that she was at the time, was just like, there is no way you bring this wickedness into our house. It's called Diablo. It looks like the devil on the box. No, sir, you cannot have. And I'd watch Diablo from afar. I'd yearn for Diablo from afar, but I never got my hands on Diablo 2 until, fast forward, Diablo 3.
Okay.
And that is my first proper entry into the Diablo franchise. And I loved it so damn much. It's such a departure from what I usually am into. But at the time, I think this was my peak Blizzard fanboyness.
Okay.
Like anything Blizzard touched, I bought. Like I don't even like StarCraft that much, and I bought StarCraft because it's Blizzard. So just buying it for the sheer name brand alone and falling in love with it and falling in love with Deck and Cade from Diablo and Diablo 2 and Diablo 3. Yes, my little granddaughter Leah. She's great. She's wearing a red tunic. Don't think much about it. It's not a, foreshadow of things to come. Like she's baby Diablo. All that fun stuff.
You just spoiled Diablo 3, Joe.
Yeah, it's all right. They have to learn someday about true. Diablo.
Good God. Well,
and I didn't say anything. You're the one that did it.
That is also partially on me anyways. But that's
right.
Okay. What's actually interesting is because, again, we have a lot of people.
About foreshadowing.
There's a lot of people in our community, actually, who I've discovered over Discord. A lot of people got into Diablo through Diablo 3. I know, like, back in the day, for old people like me, most people got in through Diablo 2 and were able to, because they were old enough to be able to pull it off the shelf and buy it at that point. Most people got in through that version. So it's really interesting hearing things coming around now where everyone kind of got in through Diablo 3 and now they're seeing this new game, which is kind of going back maybe to some of the mechanics from Diablo 2, which is interesting.
And I think the thing that opened the doors of Diablo for a whole lot of people is the fact that they found the way to make it run on consoles, right?
Well, Diablo 1 was on PS1, Joe.
Yeah. But I'm talking about, and I get it, like Warcraft as well, right? There was a Warcraft on PS1.
Yeah.
But they never figured out the UI to how to make this more compatible or compelling to a console sphere. Because there's always a reason as to why don't we see RTSs or, ARPGs like these on consoles. And it really was, I think, Diablo 3 around that time that they started cracking the code on those things. And I think and I remember even the controversies as to why the UI looked the way it did was because you had to make it run on PS3, like that type of nonsense. But it allowed so many people who've never played these types of games, this genre, to really experience it for the first time and fall in love with it. Because Diablo, for me, is not so much about the lore as it is about what we all love about looter shooters, which is to see the number go up.
Yeah.
or even just any RPG, see the number go up. And how Diablo translates that is you see all the bodies go boom faster.
Pretty much.
And that's the dopamine that Diablo can give you that no other game can really replicate.
Yeah. Or it's been tough to, like, even other Diablo likes, like Titan Quest or Torchlight, like these games that are trying to even emulate to a T what Diablo's formula is with even the same top-down view and whatnot. They just still don't ever really hit the dopamine hit that Diablo really hits with anyone out there. Like I definitely feel like I've never really found a game that's like Diablo in like the same style as it that's appealed to me in the same way as the Diablo games have.
Yeah, I think there's something special. Like you have a few out there that have the similar like trappings. Like I believe Path of Exile, right?
Yeah.
Torchlight as I love the Torchlight series. So Torchlight 2 was awesome as all heck. But yeah, none of them have reached that Diablo-esque pinnacle, right?
Yeah.
And I think Diablo is such a name brand that, when people talk about those games, Diablo's in that paragraph as well.
Yeah.
Right. And it's sitting in the same sentence. So that's my history with Diablo. But I also want to give a shout out to the cool, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, memory serves right, the PS4 version of Diablo that remember ran at 1080p and the Xbox couldn't.
Yeah.
Had Last of Us, I think, DLC in it. Where like you had like clickers and whatnot in it, right?
Yeah, there was you could actually fight, bloaters and clickers in that game. Yeah. I remember that. I forgot that was a thing until you just reminded me just now. It's like, oh yeah, that was a thing in that game.
And like Diablo is almost like WoW in the sense, or actually not WoW, sorry, Battlefield for me, where I purchased it on literally every platform it's ever been on. Like the Xbox, PlayStation, PC, it's lived on it all.
I literally I'm like you in the same way where I got it on PC because I subscribed to 6 months of World of Warcraft, which gave you it for free. And then after that, I bought it on Xbox that got the 1,000 gamer score and then got it on PlayStation 4 and got the platinum trophy. So,
damn, that's a lot of time. Let me look up the platinum trophy on that if I want to get the plat on Diablo 3.
Just to give you the time frame it took me 135 hours to do it.
That's not terrible, actually.
Yeah, it's not the worst. It's a lot of grinding because there's a big grind towards the end of it where you have to. It's really completing like 250 world events, which just takes forever. But as for me, I've told this story a few weeks ago because we did a dedicated just Diablo episode on the podcast a few weeks ago. But my old man story is, of course, from my birthday in 1997. My dad was, at Future Shop, which for our American listeners is basically Best Buy that exists in Canada. And he was looking for a gift for me. And he's like, they had an in-store setup of like a PC setup with Diablo there. And he basically like sunk like 30 minutes into it because like, oh, that seems interesting. He just is clicking around and doing stuff. And he's like, I have no idea what I'm doing in this game, but this game's really fun. I should get this for Brian. And then he looked at the specs, the technical specs on the bottom of the box, and it said it required a Pentium 1 PC, which we didn't have at the time. We had a 486 computer at the time. So we didn't have a computer powerful enough to run it. So instead, I think I got like Tomb Raider for my birthday instead the same year.
I'm finding a sneeze, Ryan.
I got it.
If anybody's like, what's he doing? I'm finding a sneeze.
I got you, man.
I remember the struggle with PC back in the day. I think I had a shout out to Packard Bell. We had one of those, and it was a fight for it to run. I think it was like Unreal Tournament I really wanted, and it could not do it for the life of itself. And I remember that was also the time back in the day where like you're a dumb kid, you're walking around, you're like, can my PC actually run this game? And like being heartbroken when it couldn't because of the water physics or whatever.
Well, especially back then too, like you had the system requirements on the box, but beyond that, like there were no online resources to consult. Yeah. Or like you could look at a magazine, I guess. Like PC Gamer existed at the time, but beyond that, you didn't really have like a lot of resources available to you at the time. So for me, like I didn't like the next year when we finally upgraded our PC, and I saved up my allowance money. and decided to go out and get myself Diablo because I'd heard so many great things about it. I got the big box with the CD, popped it into my PC, and just played it to death. I had so much fun with the original Diablo. So of course, when Diablo 2 came out, I was there day one, picking it up. Although I remember the summer it came out in was also a summer where there was a ton of other games coming out too. So there was some stiff competition, but I picked it up anyways. And then of course Diablo 3, I was there day one because of the World of Warcraft subscription offer that they gave.
Never heard of it.
Of course. So I ended up getting it for free from that. But of course, it was between Era 37 and the auction house day one and things like that. Like the launch for Diablo 3 was kind of a mess in a lot of ways.
I remember it. I was there day one. Everybody was pissed off. Remember that auction house?
Yep.
I remember them trying to make it work.
Yep.
Like, I feel like for anybody who doesn't know, the auction house used to be, you'd find rare items and you have the ability to sell them for real money.
Yeah.
And you go, wow, that sounds a lot like NFTs, because this was the concept. This was the first NFT, was the Diablo 3 auction house. And it was so broken. And everybody hated it so much that in less than a month's time, I think, right? It was like
no, it was longer than that. Like they said they were going to dismantle it, but it took them almost an entire year to take the auction house.
Really?
Down. Yeah.
God damn.
Because it wasn't really until I think the last month, the month or two before Reaper of Souls came out that they took that down.
Yes, you're right. And like I'm getting the itch to go back and play Diablo right now. That's why I'm like, Diablo 3, how much is it? $60. Ooh, we can't do that right now.
No.
But Diablo 2 Resurrected is $13, but I also heard mixed things about that remaster.
Well, I think the remaster itself is fine. It's just a matter of, Diablo 2 for someone who hasn't played it before is kind of hard to go back to. Especially because there are some outdated mechanics and the loot system's not great because a lot of times you'll play as the sorcerer and for, 10 hours, you won't get any equipment with any of your stats on it. So it's just like there's stuff like that in the game that just makes it less fun versus, something like Diablo 3 is. So
fair enough.
There's a lot that goes into that, but we're getting off tangent anyways, because I think
I'm sorry, I'm getting lost in the sauce. Let's
we
talk
just
about
love Diablo a lot. That's the thing. So, but yeah, that's what our history is, and I always like to point that out so the listeners at home kind of know where we're coming from with this stuff. Yeah. So, Joe, I got to ask this first question of you: where did you play the beta? Did you play it on PS5, PC, Xbox? Where'd you play it?
Great question. I did not double down on the double down. All right. If you look at me, you're like, you double down on the double down, Joe. No, I did not. I'm one double down away from a double down on cardiac arrest. So no way in God's green perfect earth am I going to touch that. What I did was I pre-ordered the game, and I use air quotes, on Amazon and got the pre-order code off Amazon. And that's how I played it. I played it on PlayStation 5 with all the haptics and the adaptive triggers. How about you?
Nice. So I actually, during the initial beta weekend, I only had a PS5 code, so that's where I played it as well. And then I tried it on all three platforms on the second weekend because I wanted to see how it ran on my PC so we could talk about it. And I also wanted to see how it ran on Xbox. And I'm just going to just preface this real quick before this becomes a question later. It ran exactly the same on PlayStation and Xbox. So there weren't really any issues there to report. Now, like when I was talking about Resident Evil on the Xbox Drive this week, or when we talked about it when you were on, where there's a control problem in Xbox with that game. So nothing like that this time around. On PC, it was a little bit different for two reasons. Number one, what was cool about PC this time around is this is the first time that a Diablo game on PC has offered you the option of playing with controller, because that wasn't a thing in Diablo 3 on PC, and they never patched it after the console versions came out, so you had to play with mouse and keyboard. And I actually prefer to play Diablo with controller because if you play with mouse and keyboard, for folks that don't know, it's a lot of clicking with your finger and doing this that I'm showing off in the video, which it's very annoying. I don't like playing like that. So I actually just prefer playing on console just with the controller. It just makes so much of a difference. And the PC version actually supports all of the PlayStation 5 DualSense features. So if you actually play with the DualSense, it actually supports all of the features that the DualSense actually supports.
Now, here's the thing, though. I didn't notice anything adaptive triggers wise.
Yeah, there wasn't
Anything in
anything
the haptics.
adaptive triggers wise, but
Yeah.
it actually supported like light bar features on the controller and things like that.
Okay.
Like when your health is low. So yeah, there was some interesting stuff they did there, and I've been seeing that crop up with more and more PC games because Resident Evil 4 I also played on PC, and it also did the same thing where it also supported all of the DualSense stuff.
That's cool.
Well. Yeah,
that's cool. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
I could get lost in the sauce about Resident Evil 4, so I'm gonna.
Yeah, I was gonna say we don't get into that here, but yeah, so it was actually a really good experience regardless of the three platforms that I played it on there. So then I hinted at it at the beginning. I called you the Necromancer, Joe, because I know you played a lot of the Necromancer. Is that mostly what you played as, besides your Barbarian, your level 6 Barbarian?
So I make fun of Jothar because that was our buddy Kev's name that he randomly picked. It was in the random generator. I go, okay, Drothar the Wise, sure. I played first the Sorcerer. So when I play Diablo, I actually love the Crusader, but since that's not here, I went with my ult, which is a Sorcerer. I dug the Sorcerer a lot. I won't get too lost in the sauce. So I played the Sorcerer, liked it, dug it. I did the Emperor Palpatine shooting lasers through my fingertips. Played a little bit of the Pyromancer, did not like that. The Frost, I can dig. I like the shattering damage that you have with it.
Yeah.
A lot of crowd control with that class. Dug it. Played a little bit of the Rogue, was kind of disappointed because I wanted to go daggers, but it seems like the optimal build is more like of a hunter role where like you got your crossbow out. And then my third and final character, and the class that everybody's like, oh, it's broken, it's OP. And I'm like, I know, that's why I'm playing it.
Yeah.
Is the Necromancer, of which my whole mission was how do I make as many bodies pop and explode as I can. I know nothing of this skill tree. I just want to make bodies explode. And that was my mission. And I loved every second of it.
Yeah, that's one of the most satisfying things about playing the Necromancer in the previous Diablo games as well, like Diablo 2 and 3. It's just doing corpse explosions all the time, or how many, skeletons can you raise from the dead, and all kinds of weird things you could do as the Necromancer. To be fair, the Necromancer, to your point, totally broken at the moment. Like the stats are kind of, all out of whack at the moment. Like you can definitely tell like not all of it's balanced out. Because likewise, one of the classes I was most excited to play was the Druid. And I ended up playing as the Druid mostly during the second weekend. And while I enjoyed the playstyle of the Druid, which was more, you could either do like focus on, shape-shifting skills to turn into like a werewolf or a werebear, or you could use nature skills like summoning tornadoes and stuff like that. I just felt like I was underpowered no matter which kind of skill set I went with. And I tried, doing a bunch of research and trying a bunch of different things with, the different talent builds and stuff like that. And I just didn't really like how it felt based on, stats wise anyways, especially when you get, past level 15 and you get into some of the harder stuff, towards level 20 and 25, like I just couldn't keep up with any of the other classes I was playing as. And the Rogue I felt similar with to you, Joe, where I almost wanted to, I didn't like the idea that you were really forced into doing the bow style, even though the bow and arrow and kind of trap style is what I actually prefer with that class. It just makes me sad that you are kind of forced into taking all the bow skills and you can't really customize it to your heart's content. Like I wish it was balanced in such a way where you could try a bunch of different things. Just like with the Sorcerer, like it makes sense for you to spec into one of the three elements, but I almost wish that you didn't have to. I almost wish that you could kind of try a bunch of different things and have a bunch of lightning abilities and fire abilities and frost abilities.
And like mix and match a bit.
Yeah, and not be too penalized for doing so. Because there's a lot of...
there was like in WoW, like there's, how many times has it changed? But like there was like a really cool effect for a frost mage. It was like a frost firebolt. It's like, here's a little bit of both elements. It's like, that's a cool concept. Do that. Like I would love to ice people up and then here's a big, fireball and then it breaks and shatters. Like that's a really cool ability. I found that the Pyromancer, is a lot more rigid.
Yeah.
Right. Like it is very much, you are Emperor Palpatine, you're crowd controlling, you're shooting lightning through your fingertips. You are the Ice Mage that is about freezing your enemies, shooting these orbs that explode and then shatter them, which is a really cool concept. Then you have the Pyromancer that has all these abilities that look cool and that are all completely underpowered. At least how I saw it.
Yeah. No, I felt the same way playing the Sorcerer as well, because I did have a chance to try all the character classes over the weekend.
Oh, wow.
And that was, with Sorcerer specifically, that's how I felt about it too. Whereas
Necromancer, I felt, again, my mission was to just make corpse explode, but it was like, oh, you can, instead of making the corpse explode, it's like, here's a poison mist in the air that spreads throughout the area. Like, that's cool. Having, you kind of being about like bones or explosions or blood. Like, there was like so many cool things that I felt. And again, I did things that looked cool. Yeah. Not necessarily like stat specific, but like, I was mix and matching. Like, I loved the bone ability to see, like, I shoot this huge spike out of my hand and then 3 spikes come back. Like, a really, really cool move. And I felt like, and I don't know about you, though the Necromancer is overpowered depending on where you're going to, I felt like it all kind of made sense. Like, yeah, of course, if I dealt with corpses and making them explode, well, if I'm fighting a boss, I'm going to probably be lower on the DPS if I, wasn't like, spec'd into spike damage.
Right.
Or I think the one cool ability was you can make the Necromancer a bit tanky. And it kind of reminded me of the Death Knights in Burning Crusade, not Burning Crusade, sorry.
Wrath of the Lich King.
In the first patch of Wrath of the Lich King, where they're like, hey, we have this cool, like, Dark Paladin class. We have no idea. Make him a tank in any talent tree.
Yeah.
like it was like that type of blood Death Knight type of tank where it's just like, yeah, you're getting a lot of damage, but it's all about mitigating and stealing blood from people. Like, it was a lot of cool concepts that you could play as a Necromancer, which I think is why they were so fun to play as.
Yeah. For sure. And that's why, again, like, I actually really enjoyed the play style of the Druid for the reasons you talked about, where you could do a whole bunch of stuff with it. I just really feel like if they're able to kind of boost the stats to where they're kind of on the same, level as the Necromancers, I feel like it's going to be a really fun class to play as, in the same way that the Necromancer seemed fun for you.
Yeah. My one buddy, who's like, I love the Druid because all their abilities is like, rock.
Yeah.
My weapon is a log. Like, it's just
that is usually how that works.
Yeah.
Or you just use your hands and do this. You just claw the enemy to death.
Yeah.
Or you just sink your teeth into them.
The really cool thing about the Druid that I was watching from afar was it wasn't like, again, a lot of my pull is from WoW here, but like you transform into a Druid cat, right? Or a moonkin or like a bear. It's like, and you have your different skills when you're in those forms. It's like, no, I do an attack and I turn into a werewolf. Yeah. No, I do an attack and I turn into like a giant bear. Like, it's really cool to see those transformations in real time and the animation work as well, which I don't feel like Diablo usually focused on. That I felt like there was more attention to detail here. Was just the cool little animation work from each transformation was really rad to see.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like, that was one of the first things I noticed when I was playing it too, where in Diablo 2, which was the last time we had the Druid as a class, you had the ability to shapeshift, but it was kind of like the WoW version where you'd press a button to become a werewolf. And then these are the skills that you have available to you at that time, right? Like, so I liked the idea that it was different, where it was all seamless, where, I could, turn into a werewolf for this attack, but then I throw tornadoes out of my weapons at the enemies. And then I, do this other skill and I'm immediately in bear form. So I did like the flexibility that there was available there. So absolutely. I think all the character classes, for the most part, other than skill stuff or, again, imbalance stuff, were fun to play. Like, even the rogue, I know we both weren't super high on the fact that you did kind of have to focus a little bit down a specific path. I did still enjoy, kind of the play style there. As long as you're into bows, you're probably going to enjoy what's there. And I do hope they can do some fine tuning before the game comes out in a couple.
Oh, they definitely are. I mean, how many people played it and how much just data is right in front of them come launch is,
I would
They
imagine
got what
that
they
gets
need.
tuned up. But that brings me to the next thing, which is the new talent system and also the power progression. Because it's not like Diablo 3 where you have, very limited talent selections and then you kind of pick and choose them on the fly as you go. There's a big talent tree that you go through this time. And as you spend skill points, you'll then get access to like 4 or 5 new skills and you kind of go down. But what's interesting about what we found out in the beta is basically when we got to level 25, we were basically at the bottom of the talent tree at that point, and I think you would get to level 50 in the full game. So I wonder how that's going to open up because you actually earn your ultimate ability. Basically, when you hit level 25, you're able to unlock it at that point. But I'm curious to know, Bad Bit, what you think the talent system is going to look like. Do you think we're actually going to get more skills than what we have, or is like the rate of points we're going to get maybe increases after level 25? What do you think happens in the full game?
I don't know. I love how extensive it is. It's not afraid to be an RPG, which I feel like a lot of like RPGs in this caliber are kind of afraid because they're going to lose people in the onboarding. I don't know what the future of it is, but what I do think so far, so good in terms of I'm really planning out what I want my character to be before I even play. So like I'm going in as a necromancer. What was my goal? I'm going to make all the bodies explode as humanly possible. And what's the ultimate that I really want? I want Army of the Dead because it sounds really cool. And I want to see little ghosties run around and explode. It's like, okay, so I'm going to work to see what's going to gel or what's going to gel the best. The only thing I don't like is that you have to pay money to respec.
Yeah.
Respec, I don't feel like you should punish people for experimenting. Mm-hmm. And I feel like oftentimes in video games, they do that to kind of, make purpose of the resource, which is like your gold. But it's like, who cares about that? Again, reward people for experimenting and playing the game the way that they want to, or just trying to find out new ways to play the thing that they really like.
Yeah.
So that's what I think. So far, I dig it. There's a lot to get into the weeds with it. But just don't punish the player for wanting to explore.
Well, absolutely. Especially because what you're going to find, or at least this is what I found while playing it. I think whatever your first set of skills that you put in there in the skill tree, you're not going to be happy with it and you're going to want to change it at some point. Yep. Like you're going to want to, and you're going to want to try a bunch of different stuff. So yeah, it's just, I also didn't like that either. Because in Diablo 3, that was one of the things that was nice about it, where you just, at any time, as long as you're out of combat, you just go in the menu, as long as the skills have cooldown, you just switch it out with something else and then you're ready to go. But also it wasn't nearly as, to your point, it's not nearly as in-depth as, this skill system was anyways. Yeah. But I thought that was really interesting. But now I want to move on real quick because I want to talk about the story a little bit. I don't want to go into, because I know a lot of our listeners want to stay on Media Blackout as far as what happens in the story. So we won't talk about it all. But the reason I wanted to bring up the story, what was interesting about it was the new style of the storytelling this time around, where number one, way more cutscenes this time around with the story. And it's not like Diablo 3 where they just had like the hand-painted, like still frame kind of cutscenes with a voiceover. Is the end
of Act 1.
Yeah, exactly. Like there was way more like in-depth storytelling on display here. And I really enjoyed it. Like I loved what they did with the cinematics, with the storytelling. I like what they're doing with Lilith, the villain. Like I like all the stuff that's happening with the story here, Joe. And I know that one of the things you put up there was one of your tweets was of one of the cinematics. So real quick, what do you think about the new cinematic style of the storytelling here?
So it kind of goes into like the art style, really. I like that they're going back to the cultish, brooding, gory, gothic look. I feel like Blizzard was going into this palette where it's just like, this is a Blizzard property, and you're going to see that everything artistically kind of blends with each other. I didn't like that. So I like that they're going through where it's still, I know this is a Blizzard joint. It has though its own visual identity to it. And so for me, the cinematics look phenomenal. I have no idea what's going on because I too want to go on Media Blackout for Diablo 4. So, pretty much all the cinematics were out of context, and everything that I wasn't reading, I was just skipping over everything. I'm like, I'll have time to read this when I get back to it, because I don't want to read something and waste my time because I only got 48 hours with this thing, and then like yearn for it or pine for it even more for 2 months, right? Or maybe forget something and waste more time. So for me,
we'll have to play through Act 1 again as well. Like, it's not like a Square Enix demo or a beta where it's not like the progress carries over or anything like
exactly.
that. So
so rip Drothar.
No, makes sense. And actually, I was in a similar boat where I was purposely not paying too much attention to what was actually happening. But again, I loved the presentation improvements for the story this time around. I just felt so much more engaged with the story this time around based on how they tell it. So that's one improvement I like.
I do want to hit on this. I know we could be getting long in the tooth here, and I apologize, and it's okay. Twitter is calling Lilith mommy. Is Lilith mommy?
I mean,
and
kinda?
What do we feel about Lilith being a mommy? If that is your take.
I mean, I feel like she is of something, but who knows? Who knows? I feel neutral about this, Joe.
No, I kind of feel disturbed that I'm kind of into it. You know?
Yeah. Just, I mean, it's either that or, the tall lady from Resident Evil 8. It's like, pick your poison at that point, right?
Ada Wong, Leon Kennedy, let's watch,
Good God. Well, moving on, speaking of story stuff.
Fair enough.
So many side quests, Joe. Oh my God. There were so many side quests in this game. Like, it almost felt like The Witcher to me with how many side quests just kept popping up. There was also this, like, one of the standout ones for me was like this, like, Hellraiser style one where there's this dude who likes to get tortured and his wife is like, oh, my husband just ran away and we need to go find him. And you go find him and he's like chained up and she's like, and like there's this other woman who's like trying to teach him the how awesome pain. And he's like, oh my God, I love pain. It's the best thing in the world. And I'm just like, man.
It's a lot of BDSM in there.
Yeah. It's really weird. Like, they go places with some of that side quests. But also lots and lots and lots of talking with side quests. There's never a shortage of things to do in this game.
I know that quest you speak of, but I just heard it because there's like a thing you can't unhear from that man. I was like, oh, all right. That's interesting. I don't know why he's saying that. And I'm just like, so for me, all the side quests, they could be phenomenal. They could be like the Red Baron level quest, or Bloody Baron, whatever. But for me, it was just like, I'm collecting you for XP right now. I'll get to you later.
I'm more wondering why that dude had no skin. Like, where did his skin go? Because he didn't have any skin.
He just took it off to put it back on later.
Good God. But other than that, I didn't have a chance to try out either of these two things, and I'm curious to know if you did. First off, Strongholds. Did you try Strongholds at all, Joe?
Dude, Strongholds are dope. Yes, there was one like human stronghold, like it was like a fortress that I kept on doing on repeat. It was so much fun clearing it with my buds. Awesome time to be had. Strongholds is to me, it's such like a Destiny or WoW type of thing that they've taken from like MMOs or massively multiplayer games prior. Really dug that. The world boss. Let's talk about the big old, how do we pronounce its name? Because I'm not even going to try it.
I didn't write it down, so I'm not going to bother.
Okay. So I'm going to just call it Ahsoka from Star Wars.
Okay.
So Ahsoka is one big mean son of a gun that I attempted every single time and only passed once. Only defeated her once. The reason as to why is because so many level 10s came in. And I'm like, no, you're ruining. This is instanced. Yeah. Guys, like, we don't have the DPS. And with that boss in particular, very easy to get one-shotted. In fact, if you're not like a heavy character, probably are, right? The world boss is just straight up. And I think this is a lot the critique I've been seeing from a lot of Diablo 4. It's a world boss. We've seen these, right? So like Destiny, again, WoW, I think really popularized it. I remember, and I think even vanilla WoW with like the Lich King first invasion, where like people would turn into, oh, this is so great. Those are great times. Anyway, that's what it was. And so for me, though I enjoyed myself, it is really hard once you play it first to not see its choreographed move not see its tell because it tells you, hey, I'm about to slash you for 18
Well, if
seconds
it's going to
straight.
one-shot you when it hits you, it can't just do like non-telegraphed attacks, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and then it starts throwing up icky bile all over the place. I thought it was fine. I think they kind of overhyped it a little bit, to be honest. But the loot that you get is, at least when I was playing, pretty phenomenal stuff. You get some pretty cool gear out of there. So to me, I think that's actually where the critiques of the game start actually coming, which I know we're going to talk about. So
yeah. Well, actually, that's what I was going to segue to next anyways. I didn't actually put it down, but any critiques besides that? Because for the most part, I talked about it a little bit with as far as power progression. Obviously, that needs to be all ironed out between all the different classes and whatnot. But otherwise, I'm going to be honest, Joe. I really didn't have any other critiques at all during my time with play. I was really enjoying it. I had a fantastic time playing the entire weekend, other than, of course, new queue times. But that sorts itself out because, everyone had to play online this time around. When the final game comes out, not everyone's going to be required to play online. So I actually think that'll help, that network issues and whatnot. So I think that plays into it a little bit. But beyond that, besides network issues and stuff, like that's all stuff that I know Blizzard can fix before the game comes out. Or even if it's not fixed, it'll be fixed, within a couple weeks. So I just don't personally really have anything else negative to say about it because but also I didn't really get to experience against strongholds or world bosses or anything like that. So Joe, did you have any other critiques that you had for anything that happened here?
No, I kind of mirror what you say as well. I think I was talking to Captain Logan, host of the Xbox Expansion Pass, and as well as I'm blanking on the name, Travis, who's reviewing it at IGN. We're talking about like what makes a sequel and innovation in sequels, because relative to how sequels usually are, Diablo 4 is pretty safe. Mm-hmm. I think probably is like the only smallest critique I could give is that it takes things from other Blizzard properties that we've seen before, but I don't know necessarily what it does to push its genre forward. This is just a really strong iteration on systems on Diablo 3, but there's nothing that this is why Diablo 4 exists, rather than a change in art style and the map. Other than that, instance zones, world bosses, we've seen all that, and from what I've seen so far, it's pretty standard. So to me, I think that is and again, smallest critique possible. The only thing that I could kind of give a little neg to. But from what I've experienced so far, I joked about it on Twitter. It is currently my game of the year, is that beta.
Yeah.
Or maybe, you know what, you listen to the trophy room this week and who knows, maybe I'm playing another game of the contendee.
Last of Us on PC?
Yeah, man. Those are the game of the year for eyebrows, that's for sure.
Oh my God.
But yeah, so I really love this. This is going to be a really special game that I hope gets all the love and praise that it deserves, because honestly, Blizzard more than ever, I feel like needs it at this point in time.
Absolutely. And again, I personally wasn't looking for them to reinvent the wheel. I just wanted them to provide a really fun experience. And I think I think that's exactly what we got here. But let's, throw to some questions real quick. We'll start off with Ribble, because we actually just kind of answered this one. Ribble, of course, asks, deep philosophical question. Why does Mr. Badbit not have Rybo on his shows? Also, is Diablo 4 a revolution or evolution of the series? Again, it's more of a revolution. Yeah, it's an evolution on what came before it. But why don't you have Rybo on your shows? What's going on here?
I mean, why doesn't Rybo ask?
There's that. The gauntlet's been thrown back to Rybo on this one. Darth Stradius asks us, how do you feel about Diablo 4 going more MMO-like with seeing other players around? So that was the other thing that caught me by surprise playing with the beta. You go into town and there's a bajillion people there in town. It really felt like an MMO in a lot of ways. I personally didn't mind it because I know that in the full game, that if you play offline, you just don't run into that at all. So, I knew that was going to be a product of the beta, and I'm totally okay with it. I mean, it's a little bit weird, You know, because I think you feel less special walking around town and you see, walk up to 5 other druids as a druid anyways.
Oh, no, that's cool to me.
But I mean, at the same time, I think there's an appeal to it to your point, Joe. What do you think about that?
It makes the world more lived in. I think it's really important to see that there's more adventurers that's not just you. And as the story centers around you, yeah, there's 5 other druids, but they're not your druid. Right.
That's true.
They didn't drink the Lilith blood, you did. So like, to me, that's where it makes sense. But at the same exact time, the way that they implement it, super safe. It's again, evolution, not revolution.
No, exactly. Like I liked the idea of running into players in the open areas when I was doing side quests and stuff like that. And we could actually like do like a pseudo team up without even speaking to each other and then, go our separate ways from there. I thought that was really interesting. Yeah. Next up, Garret Bland, the blandest of explosions, asks, are you willing to pay for multiple copies for cross progression between platforms? So we both did it with Diablo 3. Yeah. I mean, there's a pretty good chance that even if it doesn't happen right away, for me personally, it's going to probably happen at some point. But what about you, Joe?
I think with the Microsoft acquisition, you're going to probably see some type of cross progression between PC and Xbox at the very least, right?
Well, I mean, we know that the cross progression is all there for all 3 consoles now. Oh, okay, it's just a matter of if we're actually going to, spend the money to want to play it on multiple platforms.
Well, again, with that Xbox acquisition, then I get to hopefully one day play this not hopefully. You're going to get to play it on Game Pass, so.
That's the way I look at it too. Like it's better probably to buy it on PlayStation if you're going to buy it at all. And then if you have a Game Pass subscription, it'll be on Game Pass for PC too. Yeah. So it'll be on all the platforms at that point.
Yeah.
And then last question off the cuff, not a Diablo question, comes to us from Sean Capri, who says, question for Badbit, what's it like playing an RPG in real life and choosing the renegade path?
I don't know, Sean Capri, what's it like to start a fantasy critic league and then leave it midway through and then totally forfeit your chances of actually winning and taking a chance? On yourself, on your team, abandoning Ryan like that. How could you do that? Now we're just going to run shop on him with this fantasy league, which your guys are already losing.
We are, but I mean, I feel way safer about our pick of Diablo 4 now than I did when we first picked it.
Yeah, I think it'll be a 90.
Yeah, it's going to be.
I think it'll be a 90, 92.
It's going to be one of the highest rated games this year, I think.
For sure. For sure. It won't be like Zelda Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom, sorry. It won't be like, Resident Evil 4 Remake. It probably won't be as high as Spider-Man. What's another one that we got, but you guys didn't? It's just like so many, the Final Fantasy expansion that I have no idea what it is, but you guys
Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. Like, come on.
I mean, who knows? Honestly, Destiny really did us dirty. We'd be in a way better position if Destiny did not drop the ball.
I actually have that in the Carpool Gaming host pool, and I'm like, man, that was a rough pick. That was the only game that I have in that pool below 85.
We should have let you guys pick that. But you know what? Shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Yeah, exactly. But anyways, we're getting off topic because we got to get going, Joe. That's right. Thank you so much once again, Mr. Badbit, for joining me today. I really appreciate you talking Diablo 4 with me tonight. Remind people, where can people find you on the internet, my friend?
Hey, you can find me over at The Trophy Room, a PlayStation podcast made by the players for the players, where each and every Thursday, me and my best friend Kyle talk about the latest, the greatest in all things PlayStation. You can find me over at Mr. Badbit on Twitter, where I say some funny things, post some funny memes from time to time. You can follow The Trophy Room at PS Trophy Room on Twitter as well. All the podcast feeds and all that jazz. You know where it is.
Yeah, exactly. Very nice, my friend. As for me, you can find me on Twitter at Ryan Turford. You can find us on Twitter at Carpool Gaming, on YouTube at youtube.com/Carpool Gaming, and on podcast services around the globe. So, for Mr. Badbit, I'm Ryan Turford. This has been the 88th level of the RPG Cave. Only 11 more levels until level 99, and we're out.